Well, let's take a look at our second topic now on the show. In India's first multi-center randomized controlled trial on the use of a drug, Tocilizumab, in COVID has demonstrated that the anti-inflammatory treatment reduces the risk of death among patients with severe COVID. Now, the results of the trial were published in one of the world's top journals, the Lancet Respiratory Medicine. India's largest study on this was conducted from May to October 2020 at, several centers, if I can just get up that number, 11 public and private hospitals across 10 cities, and 180 patients were recruited for this study. Well, to talk more about this, we're now joined by Dr. Arvinder Singh Soin, Chairman, Institute of Liver Transplantation and Regenerative Medicine, Medanta Medicity, and one of the leads on this study. Dr. Soin, so tell us more about this drug and tell us more about the study that was conducted.
Gargi, as far as the drug is concerned, it's basically a drug that decreases the inflammation, which is part of the story why the damage happens in a patient who gets COVID-19 infection. So this is being tested across the world in several trials. And India's first trial on using this drug in COVID-19 patients was concluded, like you said, last year. And after that, we've obviously analyzed the data and submitted it for publication. It just recently got published on the 5th of March. And we showed in this study that the group of 90 patients who received Tocilizumab versus the group of 90 patients who did not and just received standard of care, their mortality and need for ventilation was no different. But when we did a subgroup analysis on these patients, we found that patients who had severe COVID-19 infection, if you gave them Tocilizumab, the death rate among them reduced. So there's a clear demonstration that the correct timing of using this drug, Tocilizumab, is in severe patients with severe COVID-19, and it reduces the risk of mortality among them. Incidentally, you were just talking to this expert from the UK, and there are two other studies in the UK done recently.
Right, I was going to ask you about those.
Came out,
yes.
Yeah. So they came
out
last month.
But they have not been peer-reviewed yet. They've also conducted similar studies using this drug, which is an arthritis drug for caring for patients with severe coronavirus, only in severe cases, as you said, and this is a drug that helps reduce mortality.
One of the studies is now published. The recap MAP study is now published, and the other study was the recovery trial. And both these trials also showed results similar to what we saw, that Tocilizumab was good for severe COVID-19 and it reduced mortality among these patients. So they also showed the same thing. And in fact, the UK NHS have now adopted Tocilizumab as a part of standard care for severe COVID-19 patients. So what this study does is, it prevents us doctors from using this drug indiscriminately among all hospitalized patients, because that wastes resources and doesn't necessarily save lives, and gives us the direction that the patients who are suitable for using Tocilizumab are patients who have severe COVID-19 infection. And that's what we should follow in India now.
Right. Dr. Soin, what we've also found very interesting for us who, non-medical during the course of this pandemic is this repurposing of medicines, because these are medicines that are already being used, to treat other ailments. For example, Tocilizumab that is being used to treat arthritis. And now you've managed to, repurpose it to actually treat cases of severe COVID. So that's been very interesting during the course of the pandemic.
That's absolutely true, Gargi. Making new drugs takes a long time, takes 2 or 3 or maybe more years. Average drug cycles are between 7 and 10 years to make a new drug. So you have had to look at repurposed drugs, and that's only natural. And in fact, now there are 2 drugs that have been shown to reduce mortality in COVID-19. One is steroids, and the other is Tocilizumab when used in severe patients.
And when we talk about treatment for COVID, yes, it is something that's going to take a long time. But is there anything that looks promising to you at the moment?
There are several studies going on the use of antibodies against the spike protein as treatment. Of course, we know that antibodies against the spike protein are also part of the vaccine in many situations, which is being used to protect us against future infections. But these antibodies have also been used for treatment in experimental situations. So perhaps in the next year or two, we will have antibody treatment as well as antibody vaccines. We must understand that despite the vaccine drives going full throttle across the world, COVID is not over, and we're probably going to have to live with some COVID infection happening in society. So we must understand how best to treat these patients when somebody gets COVID-19 infection.
All right, but in terms of not having any, very short treatment as of now, vaccination is our best bet at the moment, and, the vaccination drive that's underway?
Absolutely. And like I said, it's going to take a year or two at least before we have definitive, specific treatment for COVID-19 infection. Until then, we have to make do with repurposed drugs and, of course, the usual COVID-appropriate behavior, along with quick vaccination of large populations of people so that you build up herd immunity and you have at least 50 or 60% of populations vaccinated and or having had previous infection so that you have herd immunity and life can return to normal as we know it over the next 6 to 12 months.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Soin, for joining us on the show and talking to us about your study.
Good to be on the show. Thank you, guys.